A couple of years ago, a scientist did a study looking at Russian speakers versus American or English speakers and their perception of color. And what he did was he looked at Russian speakers and English speakers and asked them to tell him what color eyes somebody had. And what he found was that both the Russians and the English saw the same color and identified the same color on a spectrum. But the difference was that after a little amount of time, when given memory as the tool, the Russian speakers thought that the blue was actually more of a gray color. Like they picked out more gray color on the spectrum. And English speakers from memory picked out a bluer color from the spectrum. And when asked what color it is that the person's eyes were, the Russian speaker would say that they were gray, but the English speaker would say that they were blue. Now, that's kind of an interesting idea because I think that color is one of the things that most people would agree is a pretty stable fact. Something is blue or something is gray. But here you can see that just depending on what language you learned growing up and what culture you grew up in, you could think that one color is blue and one color is gray, even though it's the same color based on memory. And that brings up a really great point. And the fact of the matter is that even things that we consider to be facts, after we interpret them, can be perceived as something different. And you can see that when it comes to seasons. It has been shown that people can see yellow slightly more red in the summer and slightly more green in the winter compared to each other. And the hypothesis is that because there's so much more green around you in the summer, the yellow shifts in your perception to more of a redder yellow. And they've also shown that there is a tribe in Africa that has many different names for the color green, but no names for the specific color blue that we think of as blue. And when given a panel of greens, all the same color except one outlier that's slightly blue, they tend to miss that outlier that people who speak English would not miss. And on the flip side, when given a spectrum of greens, all the same color with one green that's slightly different shade that you and I may not be able to notice, they pick up every single time. And so it's really dependent on what your culture is, what you've been told over the period of your life, what you experience in your culture. And when it comes to stress, the same thing applies. We've already talked about Alia Crumb's recent studies that talked about how if you look at stress itself, not the stressor, but stress itself, the concept, and you learn that it's something that's beneficial for you, that helps you to grow and to thrive, then you approach all threats, all stresses better, physiologically, physically. Your hormone levels are better, your cognitive ability is better, and your emotional state is better than if you think that stresses in general are harmful to you. And I want to take it one step further this time by talking about how if you look at the stressor itself and you look at your resources that you're able to throw towards that stressor to overcome it, maybe you can look at those specific things and perceive them in a different way. So if a stress is perceived as more than what you can give to it, then it's considered a threat, and your body will physiologically shut down in the event that you get caught and eaten and bleed out. And it starts to do certain things in your body that help you retract and run away if you need to. Run away, hide, and retract. If you believe that the circumstance that's stressing you is less than the ability that you have to overcome it, then it's considered a challenge, and your body responds in ways that help you to have the energy and the ability to overcome it. And so it seems reasonable to think that if you consider the challenge to maybe not be as bad as you thought, or your ability to accept that challenge as greater than maybe you may think, then your ability to overcome it, your ability to maximize your performance, and your ability to maximize your wellness are going to go up. So I want you to think about that today when you find yourself face to face with a threat or a challenge, and decide which one you want to perceive it as. Do you want to perceive it as a threat, or do you want to perceive it as a challenge? You think that that's something that you can't choose on your own, but just as you thought that maybe the color yellow was always the color yellow, you know that it's not. It's your perception that creates your reality. And wouldn't it be cool, instead of allowing your subconscious to control that reality, to do a little masterminding with yourself and decide that on your own? So try that today, see how it goes.